Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and we are here for our Week 12 episode in the NFL Pick Show. And boy, oh boy, it was probably the first week of the season that I could say was legitimately it wasn't a bad week, but like this was probably my worst week of the season, or at least fairly close to being my worst week of the season. And if this is what our bad weeks look like now, thumbs up, because it could have been way worse than it was. I'm of the opinion that it was a fairly solid week, but probably with the track record that I've set this season anyway, I think it's probably the worst week I've had all season, but we'll certainly take that if that's what the bad weeks are going to look like. And yes, keen-eyed viewers may notice the Montreal Alouettes shirt, and we'll address this in a moment when the show starts. Chad is in the chat. Hey, Chad, nice to see you from Regina, of course. I took Montreal at plus 7.5. Very nice. And the Eagles, what can I say? I feel the cup. I got 9 out of 14 games right. That's excellent. Very good. Cleveland looks hot. That's going to be real interesting to see how the whole AFC North shapes up now with two like starting quarterbacks just both gone in the span of just a couple of days. Halfmoon CFL winners, you bet. Paxton's in the chat too. My God, all right, we're hitting the ground running here today. Let's waste no more time here. Let's get this thing started. Get some turkey picks. Here we go. All right, so we will start our recorder right there, and that looks like it's doing a good job. I am gonna up the potency on that one a little bit. I know this is everybody's favorite part of the show when I do like on-demand tech support right at the beginning of the episode. I know everybody loves it. All right. So, don't mind me. Just fixing my stuff. And we'll open this as well. All right, here we go. In 5, 4, 3. What's happening, everybody? Justin, Bridgewater's Finest on YouTube, Blockbuster_guy on Twitter, fueled as always by the incredible folks at Nerd Tees, and welcome to week 12 of my weekly NFL football pick show for the 2023 NFL season and postseason. And we are, of course, hot off the heels of the end of the CFL football season. My CFL show is done for its 5th season, and I want to take the opportunity to say thank you so much to everybody that has taken the time to check out my CFL show this year. Another banner year in terms of viewership. The picks started off real cold on that one, but boy, did we ever hit our stride towards the end of the season. And congratulations to the Montreal Alouettes, the surprising winners of Grey Cup 110 over the presumptive champions, the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. And this just goes to show you, at the beginning of the season, the Montreal Alouettes had the second longest odds in the entire CFL to win the Grey Cup. They started the season plus 1,100 to win the Grey Cup. Where do they wind up at the end? Champions, ladies and gentlemen. And that just goes to show you there's no such thing as can't happen, because the Montreal Alouettes proved that this year, beating not only the hosts of the Grey Cup, the Hamilton Tiger Cats, who had every reason to want to be there, the Toronto Argos, who were probably hands down the best team in the CFL all season long, and then beating the best team from the West all season long, which was the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. They were giant killers. They deserve to be where they are. Big ups to the Montreal Alouettes. But turning the attention back south of the 49th parallel into the National Football League, I kind of set it off the top of the live stream. This past week, week 11, probably my worst week of the season, I would say. But again, if this is going to be what our bad weeks look like, we're going to have 2 thumbs up on this, because we'll take this if this is a bad week. I was even money straight up, only at 7-7. Means I'm 104-60 on the season. Against the spread, just a little underwater at 6-8. Now a full 17 games over 500 at 89, 72, and 3. But we did have a good week on the totals where I actually went 9-5 across the 14 games in week 11. Has me 10 games under 500 on the totals, but I reversed my fortunes from the previous week. I was 5-9 2 weeks ago. This past week, I was 9-5. So hopefully we're trending in the right direction that way. The premium picks, the prime time picks, didn't exactly look great last week. I lost all four of them straight up. So on Thursday night, I had Cincy beating Baltimore. That obviously did not happen, due in large part to the injury to Joe Burrow. I had the Chargers beating my Packers. And look, I said it. I said it on last week's episode. I said, if this is a game that the Packers find a way to win, which is exactly what they did, they found a way to win, it instills me with confidence in this group. And it absolutely does. Green Bay wins that game 23-20, kind of bucking what I thought was going to happen. The Minnesota Vikings drop a 1-point decision against Denver 21-20, and Kansas City loses to Philadelphia. So look, it's never a good week when you go 0-4 on the biggest games of the week. So look, that was 4 of my 7 losses right there in all 4 of the primetime games. Let's see. I did get Minnesota plus 2.5 against the spread because they only lost by a single point. And I did go even money on the totals. I got the over in Cincinnati, Baltimore, and I got the under, I believe it was, in Minnesota, Denver. I think that number was 43.5, and I got the under on that because they only got to 41. So look, it wasn't great. Obviously, it was not a great week with those picks, but we are going to rebound because we've been strong on those picks all season long. Taking a peek into the Bridgewater's finest pick'em pool for season 12 of this show, I did drop down from 6th place to 13th out of 52, but still in that meaty part of the curve. I like to say, like, this league is still so competitive. 886 out of 1311 possible confidence points. It's a clip of 67.6%, and I did bring in 68 of 105 possible confidence points in week 11, which was good for a clip of just under 65%. So it wasn't a terrible week. The ones that I got right tended to be high point ones. Like I averaged nearly 10 points per pick, right? 7 correct, 68 points, but was not good enough to win the week. Shout out to our week 11 winner, as well as our new overall leader, Mr. Jimmy Smith. Jimmy Smith goes 10-4 in week 11, bringing in 87 of 105 confidence points to clip it just under 83%. And Jimmy Smith takes over the overall lead with 919 confidence points. It's just above that 70% clip that we talk about as a championship pace historically in this pick'em pool. His record straight up 106-58, so 2 picks better than me. But shout out to Jimmy Smith. Wins week 11, takes over the overall lead. We're going to take a peek now into Fantasy Corner, which is, of course, brought to you by the Dynasty Trade Calculator. My affiliate link is down in the description below, where for the cost of just a cup of coffee, you can gain access to one of the absolute best resources available to you online for Dynasty, Keeper, and long-term fantasy football. We're talking trade evaluations. We're talking player rankings. We're talking podcasts. Great experts available to you on the DTC. Once again, my affiliate link is down below. And for as little as a cup of coffee, you can gain access to this incredible tool that has helped me win Dynasty Fantasy Championships. Now, I went 5-3 across my 8 fantasy football teams in week 11 action. I sit in 4th place in both of my best ball leagues as well. So we're a little ahead of the average in both of those. Now, I did drop my matchup in week 11 in the Professionals Dynasty to Rich, who is one of the top 4 teams in the league, and I believe he clinched a playoff spot last week as well. Drops me down to 5-6. I sit in 7th place out of 12 in that league, which does mean I'm kind of on that playoff bubble. 8 teams make the playoffs in our league, so I'm right on the bubble there for a playoff spot. I've definitely got work to do. In the Ante and Co Dynasty League, now I pulled off a win on Monday night against Billy B. Shout out to DeAndre Swift. He helped me get there. That moves my record to 8-3 on the season, and I am in first place in that league out of 12. I have clinched a playoff spot. I feel really good about that. I have week 12 matchups against Chris and Carmine in those 2 leagues, respectively. Chris in the Professionals is right there with me as one of those fringe playoff teams. We both need this win this week badly. It's a matchup that's too close to call right now. And for Carmine in the Ante and Co League, another matchup that's too close to call. I think we're within 10 points in both of those matchups. So they're going to be tight. It's going to be exciting in week 12. I can't wait. And I'll take this opportunity, as I always do, to remind you that if you go to the description of this live stream, of the VOD, of the podcast episode, however you interact with this show, you are going to find all my results from last week, all of my straight up against the spread and over under plays for week 12 in the NFL. You're going to find information on joining the Bridgewater's Finest Pick'em Pool with confidence points for season 12 of this show. If you win a week, you get shouted out on this show. You can find information on joining the NFL YouTube Prognosticators Facebook page, and you can find information on my great friends and sponsors at Nerd Tees. Folks, the discount on nerdtees.ca will not last forever. Black Friday does continue on the website as of right now. I just pulled it up on the live stream and double checked. We are still in the midst of the Black Friday sale on nerdtees.ca, which is 30% off across the board. No promo code required. 30% off across the board. You can get incredible loose leaf tea blends, as well as estate coffee and flavored coffee blends. You can find them all on nerdtees.ca. Like this one, a new favorite of mine. It is Cabana Banana, and it smells incredible. It tastes fantastic, and it is available to you on nerdtees.ca. No promo code required. 30% across the board. You can get that on nerdtees.ca. Look, when it's not Black Friday, feel free to use my promo code. It's BW Finest. You all know what it is. That's going to save you 15%. But again, 30% off right now with Black Friday. Free shipping in Canada on any order over $125. That threshold did change. So free shipping on any order in Canada above $125. You also get a great conversion rate on the US dollar. Find yourself something to love, or find someone you love something to love. You can do it on nerdtees.ca. All right, we got a ton going on in the chat here, which we will get into before we get into our Turkey Week, our Thanksgiving week slate of games, which means we have a hat trick of Thursday night games to talk about. Let's see, Andrew, congrats to the Montreal Alouettes winning the Grey Cup. They needed that after the Montreal Canadiens. No, man, now the Canadians need to look. Montreal had won a championship more recently than the Habs have. Now Montreal needs to start getting on that boat as well. Hello, Justin and fellow listeners. Martin, thank you so much for stopping in, my friend. I'm so happy to see you here. Steve, Andrew, Moon, Green Bay, who is at another CFL team. Maybe if they keep going the way the way they've been going lately, that they may have to be relegated. I'm just above you, number 11 in the pool. Very good. I'm ranked higher in Moon's pool than in Justin's pool. That's actually a big accomplishment, Martin, because, that's an against the spread pool with confidence. So, that's actually pretty cool that you're ranked higher in Moon's pool than mine. Let's see. Wish I drank tea. I did buy some a few years ago for Christmas gifts. I need to try a blueberry tea. Yes. Yes, Andrew, the blueberry tea is incredible. It's probably overall my favorite, maybe my second favorite tea that's available on Nerd Teas. You absolutely need to try the blueberry tea. All right. We got a full slate of 16 games to get into. Let us waste no more time. We will get into the Thursday games. I can't call them the Thursday night games because we got Thursday games, we got an early game, we got a mid-afternoon game, and we got a night game. And Tyler's in the chat too. Go Raiders! Tyler, my partner in crime on the Justin and Tyler Movie Awards, a newly converted fan of the Las Vegas Raiders. So he's in the chat showing his support to the Raiders. Go Raiders, go 100%. I am going to buy you that hat. All right. And we got Gorian in the chat as well, going Detroit, Dallas, San Francisco money line. Nice little juicy parlay there, but put the three of them together, you got something going. Here we go. Thursday, Thanksgiving games. Let's get into them. We are going to start, obviously, with the early game on Thursday, which is the Green Bay Packers in Detroit taking on the Lions. Green Bay, like I mentioned, picking up that win against the Raiders 23-20. It was a win that was certainly assisted by the officials, we can say, because I think it was a third down play very late in the game. We got a pass interference call that was a little rinky dink. Maybe could have kept the flag in the pocket. Now, I mean, Green Bay did get called for one on the ensuing drive, so I guess maybe that might have been a little bit of a give back call, but in both cases, it was one of those, you could call it, you don't have to call it. It's tough. Look, I'm not a referee. I'm not an official. They have a tough job. In any case, Green Bay picks up the win, stops their slide at, I think it was, had they lost 3 games or, let's see, they had, they had been losers for quite a while. We'll put it that way. Losers for quite a while. They are facing a Detroit Lions team that is one of the hottest teams in the NFL right now. Winners of 3 consecutive. Obviously, this is a big and important division game. I would say probably more important for Detroit because, again, Detroit are the ones that are the real contenders this season. You certainly can't call the Packers any kind of contender for anything right now. And the Packers are going to go into this game down their top running back. Aaron Jones suffering a knee injury last week. It's been confirmed to be an MCL sprain. I would expect him to be out for the next 2 to 3 weeks. Probably not severe enough that it'll be a trip to injured reserve, but likely not playing for a few weeks. And that would be a bigger deal to me if Green Bay were actually doing anything with their run game. They're really not. This team, this offense is so heavily predicated right now on Jordan Love. And maybe that's good for his development, but I would like to see a little more use of the run game because we're really not seeing that from Green Bay. Their offensive line is playing very well. They just can't get any traction in the run game. AJ Dillon feels like he's regressed a little bit as a runner. Certainly still a dangerous receiver, and we saw that last week. But the fact that they're having to employ Jaden Reed in the run game because look, he had a rush touchdown last week. I mean, but he's showing that he could be a dangerous runner. But again, the run game just not great for Green Bay. So Detroit, for good reason, is a really heavy favorite in this game. They're favored by 7.5 points. This is tough because I have to give Green Bay credit for what they did last week and what they've been doing defensively over the last month or so. They're one of the more efficient defenses in the NFL. They're actually top 5 in the NFL over the last 4 games in terms of points allowed. So that defense, despite being shorthanded, is playing very solid football, and it's the defense that's kept them in football games. On Detroit's side, it's been the offense. The offense has been moving the ball really well. They've been putting up points. Their efficiency could be better, but it's certainly not terrible. They're putting up points. They're moving the football. I have problems with the Lions on the defensive side. Over the last 4 games, Detroit has given up the most points on average in the entire NFL. They've given up 29 points a game over their last 4. They haven't given up a ton of yardage. It's a little over 350, which really isn't that bad. But to give up that level of points, it's one of the lowest efficiency marks in the NFL over this period of time. Let your boy tell you a little something about the rule of 4. I wish Kat was here to start yelling at me. The rule of 4 states that 4 betting underdogs in any given week will win their game straight up. It did not hit last week. The last time it did not hit 2 weeks in a row, you got to go all the way back to 2019. This is going to set the pace for this week where your boy's smelling a lot of upsets. There's going to be quite a few of them that I'm going to take this week. And we're going to start right off the top. The Green Bay Packers go into Detroit and beat the Lions in the early Thanksgiving game. I'm taking Green Bay to win that football game straight up. This is my gift to them. My gift to them for winning a game that I didn't think they were going to win. This is my gift. We'll take the Green Bay Packers outright in Detroit to beat the Lions. So obviously, since I'm taking Green Bay to win, I'll take the +7.5. Obviously, no problem there. It's one of those ones, like, it wouldn't be a bad hedge, even if you like Detroit to win. Green Bay's defense is playing well enough that if you wanted to take these 7.5 points, totally legitimate. So we'll take Green Bay to win the game outright, and we'll take the +7.5. Total in the game set at 46.5. The chat's going nuts right now, which is great. I love it. I love starting weeks like this. 46.5 points is the total on this one right now. I'm going to stick with a very, very close under. This is a really good number, I think. This is right around where this is going to land. I'm going to go 24-21 in favor of the Packers. Slight under on this one at 45 points. Give me the +7.5 and give me the Pack to win the game outright. I have Moon going nuts. I have Chad going nuts. I have Gorian going nuts. I just love it. It's so good. The second Thanksgiving game is the Washington Commanders traveling to Dallas to take on the Cowboys. This is a matchup of two teams going in polar opposite directions. Washington has lost 2 straight games. Dallas has won 2 straight games. And I think Washington has officially hit that level of fade them. Like, it's not the offense. Sam Howell's done really good things with that offense. But, oh boy, that defense is not good. They're giving up almost as many points as Detroit over the span of the last 4 games. They're giving up more yardage. The efficiency is bad. This defense has essentially caved in on itself. And if it weren't for, like, the Giants, that, like, oh boy, this might be the worst defense in football right now. At least recency bias. You know what I mean? It's one of the worst defenses in football. And that's going to be bad news going up against a Dallas team that is top 5 efficiency, top 5 yardage, top 5 scoring. I don't think you got to think about this one too much. Definitely on the Cowboys here to get a very big win and to cover the spread. They're huge favorites at -10.5. I'm taking the Cowboys outright. And I'm going to lay the -10.5 on Dallas. Their offense deserves it, especially against a defense like that. This number is deserved. We're going to lay those 10.5 points. Total in the game set at 48.5. I don't see this game staying under 50. So let's go like 33-17 for Dallas. They essentially double them up. Cover the -10.5. Give me the over on the 48.5 point total. And the third and final Thanksgiving game for Thursday sees the San Francisco 49ers, winners of 2 consecutive games, travel to Seattle to take on the Seahawks. Obviously, division matchup here. And Seattle is another one of those teams that I'm starting to look at them like an auto fade. Like, I'm starting to look at them like fade against almost anybody. The offense has not been there lately. Their efficiency is one of the worst in the NFL over the last month. The defense, once again, they're giving up a ton of yardage, giving up a lot of points. I don't know that I'm ready to say San Francisco's all the way back, but I will say Their defense, their defense is exceptionally good, and the offense can certainly play some ball as well. There is an injury, a notable injury to talk about on both sides of this football game. For the Niners, it's on the defensive side. Safety Talanoa Hufanga tore his ACL. He is done for the season. So obviously that is a blow to their pass defense, to their secondary. But the Niners, very much a next man up culture. There's a lot of teams that are like that, but really feels true for the Niners. So I do believe they will be able to mask that deficiency more easily than Seattle might be able to, because they're likely going to be without Ken Walker. He injured his oblique in their game last week. I would say likely out probably 2 weeks with an injury like that, which means it's Zach Charbonnet's backfield. I'm not anti-Zach Charbonnet by any means, but he ain't Ken Walker. And I don't think he's going to be Ken Walker against a defense like this that's very, very good. Seattle comes into this game as 7-point dogs, and with good cause. I don't think they cover that number. Give me the Niners to win this game outright, extend their win streak to 3 straight, and I think they cover the -7 against the spread. So give me the Niners minus the full 7 points. Total in this game set at 43.5 points. I feel a pretty close under in this one, but I don't think this game gets to 40. Give me under 43.5 points in San Francisco, Seattle, and let's go 24-14. I think the Niners get the job done by a pair of possessions. 10-point victory for San Francisco. They cover the -7. And just when you think we're done talking about a primetime game, we have a Black Friday game for the first time, I believe, in NFL history. That Bezos money really speaks. An Amazon exclusive Black Friday game, a battle of the AFC East between the Miami Dolphins and the New York Jets. And boy, did the New York Jets ever make some news earlier this week, benching quarterback Zach Wilson, not in favor of a returning Aaron Rodgers, but instead in favor of Tim Boyle. I did not have that on my NFL bingo card for this season. Zach Wilson losing his job to Aaron Rodgers, foregone conclusion. Zach Wilson losing his job to the third guy, not on my bingo card anywhere. But 'tis the season, and 'tis the New York Jets. So Miami got back on the winning side last week after losing their outing before that. I think was a couple of weeks ago, because their bye I think was in week 10. So Miami back on the happy side of things last week. The Jets losers of 3 straight games. I don't particularly see this changing. The Jets are once again another one of those teams that I'm going to put the little X beside as essentially an auto fade, and it's entirely because of the offense. Their offense is doing nothing. The New York Jets, I have not seen a number this big in offensive efficiency, I don't think all season, even after like week 1. It takes the New York Jets 28 yards of offense on average over their last 4 games to score a point. 28 yards of offense. That's crazy. That's insane. The league average over the last 4 weeks is 16, and it takes the Jets 28. It's crazy how bad that offense has been, how terribly they have performed. And you've got Breece friggin' Hall on that offense, and you can't like, ooh, you can't you can't even move the ball, much less score points. And that's just crazy to me. The Miami Dolphins have cooled, but they're still a solid football team. So I have no reason to think that Miami doesn't go into New York and kind of curb stomp them here a little bit, even though it is a division game. I'm not expecting a lot from this Jets offense once again. So let's take the Miami Dolphins to win this game outright. And I'm going to take the Dolphins to cover the 9.5-point total. Yes, it's big. Yes, it's a division game, but I think we're going to go ahead and lay the -9.5. Halfmoon makes a great point in the chat that the Jets just picked up January Joe Flacco. Hey, hashtag Joe Flacco is elite. I'm still on that train. Hashtag Joe Flacco is elite. Man, that should say it all. That says it all right there. Like if you're picking up, how old is Joe Flacco? Is Joe Flacco 50 yet? He must be close. If that's your move, is he only 37? He has to be in his 40s. That can't be right. Really? That's nuts. He seems way older than that. No disrespect to Joe, but he seems way older than that. Wait a second. Was it the Browns or was it the Jets? Uh-oh. 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 Did we make a mistake? Yeah, that was the Browns, man. That was the Browns. All right, well, it's bad news for the Browns too. Moon, you led me down the primrose path. My goodness. I can't believe that. I should have known that. That's my fault. I'm the one that's in front of a camera. That's my fault. That also just goes to that still says it all for the Browns. We haven't gotten to the Browns yet. Don't worry, we'll get there. But that also just kind of says it all. All right. In any case, the Jets quarterback room, whether Flacco is in it or not, the Jets quarterback room not looking good right now. If again, the guy that you picked very early in the first round, the number 2 overall pick, is losing his job to the third guy. In any case, we're taking Miami to win this game, and we're laying the 9.5 on the Dolphins. Total in the game set at 41. I'm actually going to take the under on this because I don't know what I'm going to get from the Jets offense. And Miami's offense hasn't been lighting the league on fire lately. The Jets also have a good defense. So I'm not going to say they're going to put up 40 points on them because I don't actually believe that. Give me the under on this 41 point total and give me like a 28-10. Give me something like that. Solid games for the receivers for Miami. Good game for Tua, but not a high scoring monumental blowout. Give me like a 28-10. It feels pretty reasonable. Gorian in the chat making mention of some other news that came out today. The Colts cutting Shaq Darius Leonard. Came as a surprise to me, but I think that's something of a cap move, isn't it? Or maybe I'm thinking of the wrong team. Yeah, it was interesting. It wasn't something that I was expecting to see. Gorian, not a fan of him in the chat. All right, let's go through some quick ones. And the quick ones include 2 games which have 2 direct matchups of both teams in this game I would consider auto fades. So I had to do some creative thought process in making those picks. So the New Orleans Saints traveling to Atlanta to take on the Falcons. Both of these teams coming into this game off of their bye. Atlanta, losers of 3 straight games, couple of games that I think people thought in general that they should win. And this feels like another one of those, as they are a marginal home favorite here at -1.5. But I feel really good about the Saints in this matchup. Their offense is playing really well right now. I'd like to see their defense playing better, but Atlanta's defense is nothing to write home about. Their offense right now is nothing to write home about. At the very least, the Saints, I think, are special on the offensive side of the ball. They should be getting Carr back relatively soon. I like the Saints here in a very marginal upset on the road in Atlanta. Let's take the Saints to get the win over Chris Carter's Falcons. So obviously, since I like the Saints to win, give me New Orleans +1.5 on the road in Atlanta. 42.5 point total on this one. This feels like an over to me. We're going to go over the 42.5 point total. We're going to go like a 26-20, something along those lines, in favor of the Saints. Saints win, Saints cover, and give me the over on the 42.5 points. As Moon puts in the chat here, New Orleans 5-0 in their last 5 in Atlanta. Saints have also won 3 in a row overall against Atlanta. That comes to us from Chad. I feel pretty good about that pick. Another division matchup, the Pittsburgh Steelers on the tail end of back-to-back road games, traveling to Cincinnati to take on a Bengals team that have the benefit of the long week, but are losers of 2 straight and lost massively on the football field, with Joe Burrow going down to a ligament injury in his throwing wrist. He has had surgery, or is about to have surgery. He is done for the year. I think the expectation is that he will be ready for training camp next year. Fingers crossed, because the league is just better when Joe Burrow is in it and healthy and playing at Joe Burrow levels. Oh boy, going to be real interesting for the Bengals moving forward here. I think it's Joe Browning, I believe, isn't it? Who's the now the necessary starter the rest of the way here for Cincinnati. That is just such a tough blow, and in such a competitive division, it's very, very difficult. Andrew made a great point here as well. The Steelers earlier today firing offensive coordinator Matt Canada, which kind of just hurts for the name of my country. But look, it's a move that had to happen. As a matter of fact, I'm going to pull up, because you mentioned that, Andrew, I just very quickly want to pull up my Twitter, because I made a couple of tweets about this earlier today that I don't think I can phrase in any better way. So we're just going to go ahead and read them off. So, I just quote tweeted Adam Schefter's tweet that the Steelers had fired Matt Canada. And I said, over the last 4 games, the Steelers are bottom 10 in the league in yards per game, but are still bottom 5 in efficiency, offensive yards per point. This had to happen. For the specific numbers, the Steelers have averaged 290 offensive yards per game over their last 4, but it's taken them on average 18.4 yards to put a point on the board. Not a good efficiency number. The other AFC North teams have marks of 11.2, 14.2, and 14.4 over the same span. And I finish it off with, why does this matter? Because Joe Burrow and Deshaun Watson aren't going to play again this year. And this is my major point. The Steelers are a playoff defense with a JV offense. And it can't stay that way in a world where 2 of your division rivals are now on backup quarterbacks. Making the playoffs is way, way, way too important. And this is a move that had to be made, because you can't keep rinky-dinking around with an offense that can't move the ball and can't put points on the board when it's so in your grasp right now to make the playoffs. It absolutely is. Those 2 teams are likely to fall off over the course of the rest of the season. You're going to be right there, a good chance to make the playoffs, and this is a move that had to be made. So I applaud them for doing it, because as was mentioned here by Moon, he's the first Pittsburgh coach to be fired in midseason since the 1940s. So it's not something that Pittsburgh does, but it is a move that they had to do. I like the Steelers in this game outright, especially because Cincinnati's likely to also be missing T. Higgins, which again is another big part of their offense. I like the Steelers here. I think they get it done on the defensive side of the ball. Let's take Pittsburgh to win this game outright. They are a marginal 1.5 point favorite in Cincinnati, so I like them to win. Let's lay the minus 1.5. Total in the game set at 34.5. It's such a low number. It's such a crazy low number that it feels stupid to go under on it, but I'm going to, because I think it's going to be a game predicated entirely basically on the defensive side of the ball. So give me like a 20-13 win for the Steelers. I'll take the under on the points, take the minus 1.5, and the Steelers to win outright. So here's the first of those two games that I talked about here, featuring two teams that I'm basically fading no matter what. So I definitely had a decision to make here. The Carolina Panthers traveling to Tennessee to take on the Titans. Both of these teams, losers of 3 straight games. Neither one of these teams look at all capable of moving the football on the offensive side. Neither one of these teams look particularly capable on the defensive side of the ball. So where do you go? What do you do when you got two teams who are essentially kind of mirror images of each other in a results-based business? They're both bad. So what do you do? Well, the easy answer is you look at the line and you kind of let the line make this decision for you. Moon in the chat says home team. That's fair. Home team. You got it's a legitimate way to look at it. I'm taking the Carolina Panthers because I look at this line and Tennessee's favored by 4. And that line is this. That line is stinky doo-doo butt. This should be like a 2.5 without question. Maybe a 2, maybe less. These teams are essentially the same. And I don't think Tennessee's good enough that you can give them the full 3-point bump for being the home team. I really don't. So give me the +4 on Carolina. And in that world, you might as well take the Panthers outright. So we're going to grab Carolina in the upset win in Tennessee over the Titans, take the Panthers with the +4, and take the under on the points. The points are 37. Not going to be a lot of offense in this game, I don't think. I'm going to go like 14-13 for Carolina. Like, give me a last second Bryce Young to Chuba Hubbard touchdown to take them to 14 points and get the win. So 14-13 to Carolina. They get the win. They cover the +4, and let's get this game over with as quickly as we possibly can. The Tampa Bay Bucks, on the tail end of back-to-back road games like the Steelers before them, travel to Indianapolis to take on the Colts. Now, the Colts are coming into this game fresh off their bye. I would say there is a rest discrepancy here, obviously because of that, not just because of the team coming off their bye, but facing a team that's on their second straight road game. The Colts are winners of 2 straight, and that's predicated mostly on the offensive side. Super, super efficient offense over the last 4 weeks. Their defense has been fine. They've given up, a little much in terms of yardage, but they've given up the points that would make sense to go along with that. So they're not playing great defensive football, but they are playing all right. I feel really good about the Colts in this one. Again, I think the rest advantage makes a big difference in this. This is a matchup where I would give the Colts the bump as the home team, and Vegas has done that as they are 2.5-point favorites in this game. The Bucks were losers last week. They're not playing terribly. The offense has been relatively efficient. The defense, not so much. But I'm going to skew on the team that does what they do best at the highest level, and that to me is the Indianapolis Colts. So let's take the Colts at home to get the win over the Bucks. Obviously, since I like them to win, -2.5, it's a small price to pay. Let's lay the -2.5 on Indy. Total in this game set at 43.5 points. And this is actually a pretty good number. I think this is very close to where this is going to land. Give me the under on this one, I think. Very close, but I'm going to go with like a 41, something like that, a very low 40. So let's go under the 43.5 point total. Let's go like 24-17 here in favor of the Colts. Colts win, Colts cover, and give me the under on the points. Now, Moon makes a good point here. The Bucks are 5-0 against the spread on the road, but we all know they're not actually good enough for that record, right? Like it's like the Giants last year. Was it last year or the year before? They were ATS killers. They were like, I don't know, something like 13-5 against the spread last year. And most of that was as like, relatively heavy underdogs. So yes, they are 5-0 against the spread, but I we all know they're not good enough for that record. So it feels to me like a dummy 5-0, right? Like it's 5-0 on the page, but you know. And before we get into the Sunday night football game of Baltimore and Los Angeles, let's talk about the other game in this set of two teams that are basically auto fades. So once again, what do? That's the New England Patriots on the road in New York taking on the Giants. This is a matchup of two teams who are obviously not very good. The Patriots are losers of 3 straight games. They do at least have the benefit of coming off of their bye. So they will be well rested. They've had 2 weeks to prepare for this game. The Giants are coming off of a win last week that I certainly did not expect them to get. I had Washington beating them like 28-10. So I had Washington winning that game handily, and instead it was the other way around. New York won that game relatively handily. I will say on record, their current quarterback, is it Townsend? Is it Tommy Townsend? Am I saying that name right? Is like he might be the least inspiring looking quarterback to watch play in the NFL, to me anyway. And I'm not trying to send shade at the guy, but I've watched enough tape of him now that it's just like this is like if you asked artificial intelligence to build an NFL quarterback, just a literal like down the middle standard fringe NFL quarterback. That is who they would create. We had Townsend's the Kansas City punter, but am I not saying his name right? Oh my god, it's DeVito. It's Tommy DeVito. That's right. That's Tommy DeVito. I did get it mixed up with the see now I watched the Monday Nighter last night and I had Townsend on the brain. DeVito. Right. Tommy DeVito. Again, he just strikes me as like the exact, which I guess you could kind of say about Daniel Jones too, just like the straight down the middle, like I don't dictionary definition of a quarterback, I guess. In saying that, I think at this point the Patriots would kill for the dictionary definition of a starting quarterback because it feels like they have not had that all season long. This offense is really bad. One of the least efficient offenses in the NFL over the last month. Their defense has done some good things, but they would kill for that kind of consistency on the offensive side. I like the upset here. I like the Giants at home, like brain fart. I've had a few of them today. I've already had a few of them. This show's only like half over. I've already had a couple of big ones. I really like the Giants in this spot. I think this is an upset waiting to happen. I think the fact that the Patriots are favored by 3.5 points is meh. It's that again. It's very smelly. So I like the Giants. I'm going to take the Giants to win this game outright, but definitely taking the plus 3.5 on the points. Anything can happen in a competitive football game against two not very good football teams, but give me the plus 3.5. I'll take the Giants to win the game outright and give me another under on a really low point total of 33.5. Give me like 17-13, kind of get this game over with kind of territory. We'll take the Giants to win, Giants to cover, and give me the under. I've already plowed through all my tea. I tell you that cabana banana, it's delicious stuff. All right, let's skip ahead And let's go to the Monday night football game. And that is, or it's not Monday night, the Sunday night football game. See, look at all these. Look at all these brain farts. I'm going to cut that out of the podcast. The Sunday night football game, the Baltimore Ravens in Los Angeles taking on the Chargers. Baltimore, the other team that gets the benefit of the long week, obviously, having played on Thursday. And the Chargers come into this game losers of two straight, including the game last week at Lambeau against Green Bay. Baltimore picking up the win last week, but losing Mark Andrews to injury. Outside chance, according to the coaching staff, that he plays again in 2023. It definitely sucks. Ankle injury, big problems. Mark Andrews is one of the elite tight ends in football. So I really do hope that we get to see him play again this year, and I hope he kind of defies the injury odds there. Fingers crossed they make a deep run in the playoffs and we see Mark Andrews again. That is a big loss for them, but how anybody, and this is like last week was like the culmination of everything I've been saying about Staley, about Coach Staley for what feels like 3 years. The Los Angeles Chargers, it feels like it's the easiest bet in football. I didn't take it last week, but it's the easiest bet in football. They're going to win games they shouldn't win, and they're going to lose games they shouldn't lose. That's what this Chargers team is. They win what they shouldn't win. They lose what they shouldn't lose. They shouldn't have lost last week. That was not a spot that they should have lost, except for the fact that they did. Voodoo wizardry and BS analytics. That is what causes it, and it starts at the head coaching position. He should have been gone a long time ago. I don't want to be the kind of person that sits here and speaks for other people's jobs, but tell me that guy shouldn't have been gone last season, maybe the season beforehand. Like, man. And that's just the team that they are. They're the most confounding, frustrating team in the NFL. It's crazy. All that to say, I think Baltimore wins this game, should win this game comfortably. And because of that, it's not going to be a comfortable win. Because you look at it and you're like, oh, that's a comfortable win for Baltimore. Except it's the Chargers, so it's not going to be. I am taking Baltimore to win, but not by the like blowout score that I feel like it should be. We're going to take Baltimore here to win this game straight up. They're 3.5 point favorites. So I'm going to go ahead and lay the 3.5 because they're objectively the better football team. Let's lay the -3.5, but that is going to be close. The 46.5 point total, I'm going over. I feel confident about this game getting into the 50s. So let's take the over on this one. We're going to go 28-23. This could be like a late touchdown. It's not a backdoor cover, but a late touchdown to make this game close because that just feels like the team that the LA Chargers are. So we're going to go 28-23. Ravens win. Ravens cover. Give me the over on the points. All right, we got 5 more quickies here before we talk about the Monday Night Football game, Chicago and Minnesota. Let's do our 5 quickies. One more game where I would consider it a matchup of two teams that you should basically fade no matter what. But let's start with the Jacksonville Jaguars in Houston taking on a Texans team that are winners of 3 straight. Jacksonville had the win last week. They are like basically league average across the board, right? Like over the last month or so. Offensively, they're moving the ball at a league average rate. They're scoring league average points. The total defense, league average. The points allowed, league average. Efficiency on both sides of the ball, basically league average. So they've just kind of been treading along here in the middle. Now, Trevor Lawrence had a good game last week, kind of got them back on track. But man, this Houston Texans team, if you don't believe in this Texans team yet, I don't know what will make you believe, because my God, CJ Stroud, what an incredible season this has been for him. I just like give us one of these that he stays healthy, but that dude is playing incredible football. And he has got that team and that fan base believing. He's got a wide receiver core, underrated. Nico Collins, Tank Dell. Tank Dell's coming out. He has arrived on the NFL stage. He is a monster. And I like the Houston Texans here. I definitely like them in a good spot here at home. I think the offense is what winds up propelling them here. The defense has kind of left a little bit to be desired, but the offense is moving the ball really well. They're putting up points. I like the Texans here, and it's going to be a marginal upset because Houston comes into this game 1.5-point dogs at home. So give me the Texans to win the game outright, and give me the +1.5 against the spread on Houston. Total in the game is 47.5 points. I like the over here, again, propelled by the Houston Texans on the offensive side of the ball. Give me a 27-24 final. So give me the Texans to win, Texans to cover, and give me the over on the points. CJ Stroud, CJ Beathard, what's the difference? The difference is a lot, Moon, and you know it. Jeez. All right. Speaking of the Cleveland Browns from earlier, Cleveland takes their 3-game win streak on the road into Denver to take on a Broncos team that's won 4 straight. This Denver team has turned things around, and they're like efficiency darlings right now. Offensively, top 10 efficiency. Defensively, top 5 efficiency. Their defense not giving up anything on the scoreboard. They've bent, but they won't break. And that's, again, that has propelled them from what was a 1-5 start to now even money at 5-5 and alive in the playoff race. It's been very, very fun to watch this Broncos team. And they're coming into this game, obviously, with Deshaun Watson not being available for the Cleveland Browns for the rest of the season. Obviously, they found the broken bone in the shoulder. He's had surgery. He's done for the year. I made probably a meaner than I could have or should have tweet about the fact that Cleveland has paid Deshaun Watson $91 million for 12 games over the span of 2 seasons with kind of pedestrian numbers. So, I mean, it's reality. It's mean, but it's reality. Like, my gosh, and yet they've found success. And they're finding success on the defensive side of the ball. The offense has been relatively efficient, but there's success on the defensive side of the ball, and they're doing whatever they need to do to win. And I mean, obviously, every team wants to do whatever they need to do to win, but the Browns are like epitomizing, we don't care what you have to do whatever you need to do. And that's what the Browns are doing. And they're going to have to keep doing it because they're not going to have their top quarterback. One thing I forgot to mention about the Chargers game, by the way, Chargers are likely to be without Joey Bosa. He's got a foot injury that he suffered in the Packers game. He's likely heading to IR if he wasn't moved to IR earlier today. I think they're kind of watching him for a potential Lisfranc injury. Lisfranc injuries can be nasty. And the Chargers are another team when you get one of those like superstars on defense, if you're just missing one of them, feels like the whole defense falls apart. So it's going to be tough sledding for them for the next 3 to 4 games. But coming back to the Denver-Cleveland game, this is a tough one because, look, obviously, both of these teams are playing good football. Both of these teams are playing winning football. So it is a very tough call. It was another game where I decided to opt for the points. And I'm taking the Cleveland Browns to win this game outright. I don't believe in the win streaks for either of these teams. I don't believe either one of these teams are as good as the win streaks have indicated. But I think if you take both of these teams top to bottom, which of these teams has the better roster? I believe it's the Cleveland Browns. I genuinely believe it's the Cleveland Browns. So we're going to take the points here. We're going to take Cleveland on the road in Denver to get the win over the Broncos. Obviously, since the Broncos are 2.5-point favorites, I like Cleveland to win. Give me the plus 2.5. Total in the game set at 35.5 points. Another, I think, exceptionally low scoring game. Give me a 16-13 final. So give me the under on the 35.5 points. Cleveland wins outright, and give me the points. Forgot I didn't have any tea left. And in our final matchup this week of two teams who I believe are, right now anyway, fades no matter what, the Los Angeles Rams on the road in Arizona to take on the Arizona Cardinals. Now, the Cards were losers last week. The Rams picked up an impressive win against the Seattle Seahawks. Again, this really where the problems for the Seahawks, I think, came to the forefront. Not a game that I felt that they should have lost. However, here we are. The Rams really struggling on the offensive side of the ball. Efficiency, very, very tough for them. It's at a 19.1 right now. So they're not scoring a lot of points. They're not moving the ball exceptionally well. Defensively, they've been all right, but scoring, they've been giving up quite a bit. But Arizona is Arizona, and it doesn't look like the return of Kyler Murray, at least yet, has completely changed their fortunes. Maybe it will as a little more time kind of goes along, but as of right now, again, two football teams that are not very good. Once again, I'm going to opt for the points here, and I'm going to take a marginal upset. I like the Rams on the road in Arizona to get the win over the Cards. So let's take the Rams with the points plus 1.5. Again, Arizona only a 1.5-point favorite at home against another bad team. Shows you exactly what Vegas thinks of them. So let's take the Rams to win. Let's take the plus 1.5. Total in the game set at 44.5 points. I do think this gets up over this point total, even though the NFL's been skewing so far under this season. Give me the over on this one. Give me like a 27-21 for the Rams. They should be getting Kyren Williams back, which I believe will significantly help the run game. We could see a couple of Kyren Williams touchdowns in this one. 27-21. Let's take the Rams to win that one. Moon is saying, I thought the Rams were the favorites. If they are, that number has crossed the zero since I looked at it like 2 hours ago. So it's possible that number may have swapped, but the last I looked, Arizona was still minus 1.5. And that probably also depends on the book. Next up, we got the Kansas City Chiefs in Vegas taking on the Raiders. The Chiefs obviously going to come into this one on the short week, having just played and lost on Monday night to the Eagles. Obviously, they're going to be upset about that. Obviously, they're not a team that is used to losing streaks. We'll put it that way. Both of these teams were losers last week, in fact. Obviously, this is a division matchup, and obviously these two teams know each other very well. The Raiders have had a lot of success at home this year. I think if you kind of look at their splits, road and home, there's like a really significant difference between Raiders at home, Raiders on the road. They don't have a good enough team to compete in this matchup. Obviously, I'm on Kansas City here in a big bad way, even with the short week. So we like Kansas City to win this one. However, they are big favorites in this. They're plus 9.5. Their defense has been pretty darn good lately, but the offense really hasn't. They move the ball, but they're only scoring 19.5 points a game over the last 4 games. This offense has problems. So I'm not going to lay minus 9.5 on this team until they show me, oh, they're the Chiefs again. What is it? They lead the NFL in dropped passes from wide receivers, I believe, or just dropped passes in total. Really tough to lay a ton of points on teams like that. So let's take the plus 9.5 on the Vegas Raiders at home. I don't think they win the game outright, but I do believe that they cover the plus 9.5. Total in this game set at 43.5. Again, I think this is going to be relatively low scoring. So let's take the under in this one. I think it's going to be fairly close. It's a decent number, but I don't think it gets to 40. Let's go 21-17 in favor of the Chiefs. Chiefs win, but the Raiders cover plus 9.5 and give me the under on the 43.5 point total. And then the last game that we are going to look at before we get into the Monday Nighter is the Buffalo Bills on the road in Philadelphia, taking on an Eagles team that, ho-hum, are back to a 4-game winning streak. Even though they're on the short week, obviously the Eagles are a relatively heavy favorite in this one at minus 3.5. And I say that's relatively heavy because it's against the Buffalo Bills, who are considered to be a good football team. So having to buy that extra juice feels like they're a heavier favorite. Bills have just kind of been treading along. They move the ball fairly well. They keep the ball from moving fairly well. Their total defense hasn't been too bad lately, but I think this Philadelphia Eagles team is undeniable. Even though their defense has been like a little questionable over the last month or so, they still feel like an undeniable team that's right back to making an easy Super Bowl run. Like this feels like a team that is still firmly in that window to win championships. And I can't say the same about the Bills. The Bills did win last week. That has to feel good for them. Get back on the happy side of things. But man, this team, when you think that like this team to me was a front runner to go get Davante Adams at the trade deadline, and think about what a huge difference Davante Adams across from Stephon Diggs would have made in this offense. But you stand pat, and this has been your result since the trade deadline. Hasn't been great, but you were right there, and that was a move to be made, and you didn't make it. And I don't necessarily think that the Bills on paper as they are today are Super Bowl contenders. I really don't. I think they're a playoff team, but I think they're cannon fodder for the actual Super Bowl contenders. That's just my opinion. I could be wrong, but that's how I feel. Definitely on the Eagles in this one. Eagles at home feels like a solid play. Let's take Philadelphia at home to get the win over Buffalo. And we like the Eagles to cover the minus 3.5 here as well. It's above what I would call a small price to pay. But again, this Eagles team is so good on both sides of the ball. I do think they cover this number. Total in the game set at 48.5. This is, again, very, very close total. I'm going to stick under on this one and go 27-20. That's the score that speaks to me, and it winds up being a very marginal under. So under 48.5 points, 27-20 final for the Eagles, who win and cover the minus 3.5. Yeah, Martin, Buffalo doesn't look impressive at all. I don't think so. And once again, when you look at, like, I feel like Davante Adams was there to be had at the trade deadline, and a team like Buffalo would have been a perfect fit. And to not go out and get him, don't like it. All right, the Monday Night Football game, the Chicago Bears on the road in Minnesota to take on the Vikings. The Bears on the tail end of back-to-back road games, and this is a Chicago team whose offense has cooled as of late. There was a period of time when this Bears team, the offense was flowing. Like, even though they didn't necessarily have a full complement in their lineup, certainly not in their backfield, they were still making plays and putting points on the board. The defense has definitely been a problem. They've been pretty good from a total defense perspective, giving up just over 300 yards a game over their last 4, and that's really not bad. That's top 10 in the NFL over that period of time. But they're also then giving up, 24.5 points. in those games. So giving up way more than what they should be giving up for the little bit of yardage that they're giving up. So the efficiency definitely not there. And again, the offense has definitely cooled. The Vikings moving the ball, putting points on the board, very efficient on the defensive side, not giving up a ton on the scoreboard, only allowing 19 and a half over their last 4 games. Interesting note, the player on the Broncos who had that hit on Josh Dobbs got suspended today, I believe. 4 games again. Is that not his second 4-game suspension of this season? Was it Kareem? I'm doing really bad with names this evening. Was it Kareem Jackson? Is that who I'm thinking of? In any case, the same player got another suspension for 4 games for doing the exact same thing. Like, at this point, you're not going to learn your lesson, so we're just going to keep suspending you until no team wants to sign you, I guess. And he's such a talented player is the problem too. Like, he's not a nobody. He's a talented player, except he headhunts. So anyway, I think Dobbs, as far as I know, is good to go in this game. I haven't heard anything to the contrary, so I assume that he's good to go. I like the Vikings here. I think the Vikings are playing too well on both sides of the ball. There's conspiracy theories flying in the chat right now, but the fact that, like, Chicago needs to lose, like those draft picks, Chicago needs to lose. Chad saying Dobbs dealing with some headaches, so definitely some issues. That could be trouble. I mean, the game's not till Monday, so he's definitely got time. That could be trouble. Keep an eye on that for sure. Keep an eye on whether or not Dobbs is actually starting in this game, because that does make a difference. But the biggest difference is that they should be getting Jay Jettas back. And if they get Jay Jettas back, look out. That guy is mad. That guy is going to have a hell of a return game at the expense of the Chicago Bears. So give me the Vikings here to win this game outright. They're laying -3.5 here as a home favorite. I like them to win. I like them to cover that number as well. Give me the -3.5 on the Minnesota Vikings. Total in this game set at 43.5 points. Does this feel like it gets to 40? I don't think it does. I'm going to stay under on this. This does not feel like a game that gets to 40 points. At least not to me. Let's go like 23-14. Something like that. Vikings win. Vikings cover the -3.5 and give me the under on the 43.5 point total. There you have it, folks. Those are my picks for a packed Week 12 in the NFL. Thanksgiving week, the trio of Thursday games and a Black Friday game to boot. It is going to be an exciting, exciting victory for all of us, for football fans across the board. So it's going to be an exciting Week 12. I can't wait to enjoy it. I hope you can't wait to enjoy it either. That's it for me, Justin, Bridgewater's Finest on YouTube, Blockbuster_guy on Twitter, fueled as always by the incredible folks at Nerd Tees, whose Cabana Banana I absolutely clobbered this week. And hopefully I come back next week and I'm not quite so stammery. So I hope you enjoyed the episode this week. Enjoy the games in Week 12. We'll see you again for Lucky Week number 13. And someday I might not say Lucky Week 13. All right, folks, there are the picks, and that's the episode. So, obviously, so that's a number of upsets that I took this week. I think it's 6, at least 6 by the lines that I have. Green Bay, New Orleans, Carolina. No, it's 7. The Giants, Houston, Cleveland, and the Rams. So why don't we just quick hop on here and take a look. Obviously, the Packers are still dogs. The Saints are still +1.5. Let's see, Carolina. Where are you, Carolina? Carolina obviously still +4. The Giants are still +3.5. Houston's still +1.5. So they're still a dog. Cleveland still +2.5. And the Rams. The Rams here are still, so that line opened at Rams -1.5, but it's now moved. It has crossed the 0 to Arizona -1.5. So Arizona are the favorites in that game. So that's 7 upsets that I'm taking straight up this week, which is a lot. But once again, that hashtag rule of 4, it hasn't missed in back-to-back weeks since 2019. So we're talking 4 full seasons into the 5th. Like, I think there's going to be a number of upsets this week, and it's a good week for it to happen where so many lines are so close. There's a lot of 1.5s, a lot of 2.5s, marginal stuff. So I feel like it's a good week for it to happen, and I think it's going to happen. Obviously, you guys do not like my call on the Packers, and I understand that. But the only one in this chat that would have a legitimate gripe about that is Moon, because Moon is the dedicated Lions fan in my life. He's the one that should have a legitimate gripe, because it's like, my team is as good or better now, this is Moon talking, than it's ever been, or than it's been in recent memory. And you're going to take the Packers to beat them in Detroit. He's the one that has a legitimate gripe. So it is what it is, Moon. You know, it's all love. All right. I think that's where we will end the episode this week. Once again, big shout out to the Montreal Alouettes for winning Grey Cup 110 in what was probably the best football game of 2023. And I say that understanding that there's been 300 some games in the NFL this year and playoff games from last year. But man, oh man, that Grey Cup was incredible. If you have the opportunity to watch that game, do yourself the favor, because what a football game that was. Just incredible. All right, friends, thank you so much for taking the time to check out the show this week. We'll see you again for week 13. Enjoy American Thanksgiving. Be safe. Spend time with your family. Eat tons of turkey. Get big and fat, just like your boy. We'll see you again next week.